this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Welcome to another episode of Get It Right Texoma with the trio, Mike Hendren, Terry McAdams, Trey Sralla, all here with you. Glad to have you with us once again. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously you know we are there. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, we're not just a figment of your imagination here.
No, you're not just dreaming us, and this is not just a result of the drugs you're on either.
And by the way, if you were dreaming, you would not dream about this group.
No, unless you were on drugs, and then you might have some weird something going on. Possible. Who knows? Anyway. Be sure to visit our website, GetItRightTexoma.com, and follow us on Facebook and share this on all your social media platforms as well.
And you can actually catch the audio version of this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, any of the major podcasts.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to look at our ugly mugs, you can just listen.
You can. A
lot more entertaining, I think.
While you're jogging down the road, which might cause you to fall down. I don't know. Yeah. Careful out there. It's brought to you. The show is sponsored in part by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles at 401 North Scott, downtown Wichita Falls, EddieHillsFunCycles.com. MacTech Solutions. We are recording in the MacTech Solutions podcast studio, as a matter of fact. 4020 Ray Road here in Wichita Falls, Suite 3B. MacTech-Solutions.com is his website.
And speaking of sweet?
Oh, yes, and speaking of sweet, Lolly and Pop's Sweet Shop.
That's what you call a transition in the biz right
Custom
there.
pies and cookies and pralines and king cakes and a whole lot more from Lolly and Pop's Sweet Shop. Visit lpsweet.com or on Facebook, Lolly and Pop's Sweet Shop as well. So we do try to entertain and inform you, and we also have a lot of interesting guests on this program, and we've got a lot scheduled coming up. But this morning, one of the area VIPs is here with us. He is the current Clay County Judge.
Alter.
Is that the right way to say that?
That's exactly right, yes.
Yes. He's also known as His Honor.
Yeah.
Everybody backs out of his presence.
Yeah. It's got to be said.
That's right. Got to be said. Mike Campbell, how are you?
I'm doing great. Things are looking up. I think it's going to be okay.
So I got a question about this judge thing. That to me, when I got involved in politics, or started paying attention and got in Texas. I'm from Texas, but I didn't realize as I was growing up about that kind of stuff. So a judge is not, tell me, why is it called a judge, and what's the different from being in other judges that we
like
think
a criminal
of
judge?
Yeah,
Sure.
Yes. Well, there's
kind of
254 counties, and all of them have county judges, and they're constitutional judges. Okay. And their responsibility is we actually do have criminal court, so there is judge. We do probates, that sort of thing. Our main function, though, is really budget. We manage the budget and oversee Commissioner's Court. So those are the two big ones that most people see. So you don't have to have a law degree to be a county judge, but there is a lot of training. I've been through a whole bunch of training to get to this point. I got a book that thick on probate that I refer to a lot. That's one of those things that's really a big deal. The other thing that we do that people don't realize is the justice of the peace is responsible for mainly magistrating and for inquest. And an inquest is when someone dies that's unattended by a medical professional. We have to go, the JP goes out and they don't declare them dead. That's not really true. They find out if there's any foul play, that sort of thing. It's a two investigations going on at once, the police department and then the JP. But if the JP is not available, the county judge takes up the slack on that. So I get calls on that occasionally. So it's a lot of things that are going on with that.
Okay, cool.
But and how many hours would you say a year do you do actually in the judge robe in the we would consider a traditional judge role?
We have criminal court once a month, and it usually takes about 5 hours, 4 hours more or less to get it done. We'll have around 60 to 70 customers, I guess you'd call them, that come through, and so we're looking at 6 or 7 hours a month to do that. We'll do probably 2 or 3 probates a week. Of course, Clay County, we're only a little over 10,000 people, so we're not real populated. Wichita County, on the other hand, does a whole lot more than that. Depends on the population.
So what kind of court, what's the latest court case, a big one that you dealt with?
Probably the animal cruelty that we've had. We've had an animal cruelty case where there was a lawyer out of Montague County let some cattle starve, some horses starve. Several of them died. Neighbors turned him in. We have a individual that is a investigator specifically for that. And so he came before the Justice of the Peace first. It's a Class C misdemeanor. He appealed it to my court. So it came into my court, and we had to have a jury trial, the whole deal. First one I've had in 5 years, I've ever had was this animal cruelty deal. They found him. It took longer to seat the jury than it did to find him guilty.
Wow. So,
but then he appealed that. So he's going to appeal that up to Fort Worth. So it's an ongoing thing.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, so some of the challenges of Clay County it's unique in this area because it is, like you said, it's a relatively low population, but it's a very large county. I believe, if my math is right, isn't it almost double the size of Wichita County in square miles?
We're 1,100 square miles, and it's about 50 miles north to south and 27 miles east to west. It's like 700,000 acres is what we've got. We've got 13 volunteer fire departments. We've got 2 ambulances. We've got a wonderful hospital. There's a lot of things that I learned when I became judge I didn't know. Which I was introduced to a judges group one time, and one of the judges there said, well, he doesn't have a clue, does he? And Judge Liggett said, no, not a clue. They were right, because we own, the county's responsible for so much. The hospital, the Tex Rickard Arena, the library, the jail museum. There's just a lot out there that people don't realize that the county court is responsible for.
And your law enforcement is the county sheriff's office, basically.
Yes,
you don't have a single local police department in the county, do you?
Do not, and that's kind of an unusual thing too. Most other community, Archer City, for example, or Holiday, or you look at Nocona and Bowie, they all have their own police department. Yeah. What Henrietta does is they pay extra to our deputy, to our sheriff's office, to get a deputy full-time in the city limits. So we have a deputy that's dedicated to that. Not one, but they rotate through. But 24/7, there's somebody that's available in Henrietta, but they pay extra.
So it is actually, in a way, they do almost like to have their own police force without having to have all the administration part of that as well.
I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Makes sense,
because we can do it so much more efficiently than if they had to duplicate what we're doing.
Right.
It's rare. You don't see that very often. And I ask about why is that, and it's usually because of ego. People on city council have an ego, and they want to be in control of whatever's going on there. So right now they just write a check, and we're good.
Okay. All right.
So when you're talking about elections, that's one of the things that, of course, falls into the county. And when you're talking about having so many square miles to cover, how many? What kind of challenges does that add to the election system for Clay County? Because I would imagine if you have an election year that needs to hit all the election sites, I mean, how can you even hit all election sites in one day? Is it possible?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's a stretch, but we actually have Val McLean. She has an assistant, and she's our election administrator. Her responsibility is to make sure everything goes smooth. We got 13 different boxes. Some of them only will have 30 or 40 voters that come in to do that. But she makes sure that, number one, all the machines are correct. They got to be programmed ahead of time. She's got to find all the election workers also, and that's a challenge now too. Not many people want to put themselves at risk like that because they can be liable. If they do something wrong, they're criminally liable now. So why would you want to do that to yourself other than you love your country, you love your county, and you want to get it right? So the biggest challenge for us in Clay County is finding Democrat workers. We'll have around 300 people vote Democrat in Clay County. Everyone else votes Republican. We don't have a Democratic primary. But we got those that are Democrats are very strong, very vocal. So we appreciate the work they do to make it right. They keep everybody. There's some accountability there, and I think that's important. But it is spread out. I guess you asked for the challenge. While none of the voting is on the internet, I mean, none of our machines are connected to the internet. But that thing that I don't know how y'all vote, but when you go in, you give them your driver's license. It brings up your voter information. We print out the ballot. And you go over to the machine, and none of that is connected. but it does show that you voted. And so we keep that updated throughout the day. Reason for that is so you can't vote at several different places. Some of our places don't have internet, and that's true of many of us in Clay County. Rural areas just don't have cell phone or internet.
Dead spots for sure.
Yeah, well, and that is something though that's slowly changing over time. I mean,
we got fiber.
Yeah,
where I'm at.
Arguably, it's a lot better than it was 10 years ago.
Without a doubt, no question. And a lot of money's been allocated on the federal level and the state level to make that happen. We are seeing fiber pulled through some of the most rural areas in the county.
We just got fiber about 2 months ago.
Yeah. Who's doing yours? Spectrum?
Spectrum.
Okay, and then we got Centrio putting in, and some of the other companies.
I have real estate clients ask me all the time. We'll be looking at a rural property, house out in the country, and one of the first questions that comes up is what kind of internet service can I get out here?
And they're doing it because they're working remotely. We got so many more people working remotely now than ever before.
I talked with someone just 2 days ago that's their very situation. They're working remotely. Their whole job is 100% remote now. Mm-hmm. And so they have to have high-speed internet in order to do what they do and do it reliably.
My granddaughter worked for Teledoc, and she lived in Vashti, Texas. But she had ComCell fiber, and, she could be in downtown Dallas just as easy.
Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned about, of course, Clay County is growing, but because there are people moving up out of the Metroplex. Mm-hmm. And earlier you mentioned that there was a specific sale that happened here recently. If you could just let everybody kind of know about that, which just shows how much Clay County is growing.
We are seeing, as people move from California into the Metromess, people in the Metroplex are now moving out. We've seen it in Wise County. Montague's got 21 subdivisions right now that they're looking at to approve. Mm-hmm. We just finished one. A fella came out and bought 1,000 acres in the southwestern part of the county, just south of the wind farm off of 174. And we finally got everything done. And he had a big sale. They met at Jacksboro High School. I guess took buses or caravaned up to the location. They've got 99 lots for sale. As of last Saturday, they sold 77 of them.
Wow.
Wow. And we're getting calls at my office, people that are potential customers for that. Mm-hmm. And that's the question. How's the water? Is the ground contaminated? Are there going to be any more windmills because they're ugly? Stuff like that. Where do you plug into the water?
Have you tested any nuclear bombs here lately?
People want to know. It's a valid question. So, I can't explain what. The most fun question is, where do we connect our sewer and water? Who do we call about getting our sewer and water connected?
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to happen. You're going to have to drill a water well, and you're going to have to talk to our septic tank guy.
Well, you're going to be lucky that you have electricity out there, and then maybe internet might come before the sewers. Yeah, it will come before the sewers if that ever comes.
Speaking of water, this is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, I guess.
Hey, come on, man. What? That's not nice.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get personal. Yeah. No, the Lake Ringgold project. This is something that has been on the radar for at least 6 or 7 decades now.
Yeah, that's true.
Longer than you've been alive. and so it's finally starting to. It looks like it's coming to fruition at some point here in the foreseeable future. A lot of legwork's been done to get to this point. But there's also a lot of opposition to building Lake Ringgold. And I know there's a lot of opposition in your county because that's where the lake's going to be. You have the fortune or misfortune, depending on your view of it, of having the last available reservoir site in the Little Wichita River watershed area. That's it. I mean, that's the bottom line. This is the last place we can physically build a lake in this watershed area. What is the pulse really like in Clay County toward this?
I testified, I guess, 5 different times before Senate and House committees about water and all of that. Mm-hmm. We've got several landowners that are legacy landowners that have had their ranches for over 100 years. There'll be about 50 or so that'll lose their property. One of our ranches will be split in half. So you can imagine what it's like to dedicate your life to something for that long and then just have it taken away from you through eminent domain or whatever. History of it, of course, they originally thought they would build the lake out there, and then Arrowhead won over that. So Arrowhead was built instead of what we call Lake Ringgold. As a result of that, The city has bought 5,000 acres in the middle of that, but they're going to need around 20,000 to make it happen. So they've got to buy a lot more land for this to occur. They have several steps to go through. The first one was TCEQ. We had our landowners had their attorneys available, and they all were opposed to it and argued against it and what have you. And the first judge said it shouldn't be built. But then when they took it to the three committee persons in the TCEQ, they disregarded what the judge said and said, no, we're going to approve the permit. I can tell you that part's not over yet either. The group that has opposed to it, they have appealed that, so there'll be another hearing about that. So that part's not done either. If that goes through, if we're not successful there, then it does have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers. So that's another process as well. The contention is, and the reason why people are opposed to it, number one, you don't lose your land, obviously, but they believe that Wichita Falls really doesn't need the water. They believe that if they would just fix the leaks, that are in the city right now, they could solve a lot of the problems. Look at alternatives, water wells, for example, or desalinization projects. So I guess their contention is that let's look at all the other options before we spend $1 billion to build a lake. That if you got 2 dry lakes, you're probably going to have 3 dry lakes because, like you said, it's on the same watershed. So that's kind of where their viewpoint is.
Yeah, one of the big hits. Well, you mentioned water wells. Part of the problem, because I know a bunch of people in this county that are on well water, and their wells are marginal.
By the way, we're in Wichita County, located. If you're watching,
we're we're the immediate western neighbor to Clay County,
and the city that Judge referred to as the city of Wichita Falls,
right?
Who is in Wichita County but owns land. And is the one pushing for this Lake Ringgold project in Clay County. I just want to make sure everybody's
the city owns or part of Lake.
Let him finish his. That's another question. Let him finish his question. I just wanted to clear that so people aren't sitting around going, "Wait a minute, what city and what county?" And because it is a little confusing.
We are on the internet, so it could be anywhere in the world.
That's really the truth, and we have people that listen and watch from all over. So
we do. Well, most of these wells that these people are on there are marginal wells. Mm-hmm. You can't run a household the way you would if you were connected to a municipal water supply. If you live in the city limits of Wichita Falls or Henrietta or wherever else, you walk in, you turn on the faucet, the water comes out, and there's very little worry about that not working, unless you don't pay your bill. There's very little worry about that not working. Mm-hmm. If you're on well water, that's a constant worry because you accidentally leave the faucet outside on overnight, your well's probably going dry. So it's problematic for to be on well water. It has a lot of challenges. So groundwater, surface water tends to be, and this is why in Texas we've built all these reservoirs. We only have one natural lake in the whole state, and everything else is a man-made reservoir. And most of them are getting pretty old, and they're silted in, and they need help. But there's a lot of money involved. But this project, and I was not a big fan of Lake Ringgold myself for a long time. I'm kind of back and forth on it. My biggest thing has been the cost. The price tag just keeps going up and up and up. The first time I ever interviewed our public works director, Russell Schreiber, in Wichita Falls about this. Mm-hmm. The price tag was somewhere around $300 million. And the last time we talked, it was about $450 million. And that was within about a 10-year time span. It increased $100 million plus to do this. And it will take 15 to 20 years to construct this lake.
All true.
Once you clear all the legal hurdles and all the
environmental
environmental
smoothly, that would be the best case.
If everything went smoothly, 15 years is your best case scenario. You're probably looking at 20 to 25 years realistically, because there's multiple hurdles that are going to have to be cleared, and these legal challenges are some of those hurdles.
Yeah, and as I talked about it, you're looking at probably $1 billion. So who's going to pay for that, and how will it get paid for? Mm-hmm. One of the things that the city of Wichita Falls is doing is they're going through I think it's SWIFT fund.
Yes.
And that way they don't have to put it before a bond election, so the citizens of Wichita Falls won't have an opportunity to vote on whether or not to build it. But it will be put on your water bill. So you may have water, but there won't be many folks here. That's the deal, that can afford that kind of water bill. That concerns me about people in Wichita Falls, is you're going to get dumped on with something that you had no choice.
Well, but I'm sorry. The reality though is that people here, if their water bill went up 10% even, they're not going to sell their house and move to Dallas. Okay, they're not going to do that. They're not going to, and they're not going to sell their house and move to Chillicothe either. Okay, right. No offense to Chillicothe, but they're not going to do that. They're just not. People are not going to uproot their lives over a 5 or 10% increase in their water bill, are they?
Well, it depends on where you're at in that. If that's all it were, it may be a whole lot more than that. The thing that you got to worry about is, the thing to understand is, in the last 60 years, the population of Wichita Falls hasn't changed 3% either direction.
No.
Right.
So we believe that the water, you got enough water right now with the water sources that you have to support that well and above. Now, granted, we did have the drought, and we were pretty close on that drought, and that is what panicked everybody. I think that's what's driving the Lake Ringo project, is we went through the drought. Ultimately, the bottom line is, whoever gets here first wins, and water will determine what your population is going to be. Industry, population, all of that. So, again, if you've got 2 dry lakes, you're probably going to have 3. Russell Schreiber, I told him that, and he said, well, I guess 3 half-empty lakes is better than 2, which I guess that's true, but you spend a lot of money to get to that point. If we go through that drought again, you're going to see the same thing.
At what cost? Terry, what were you about to say?
Well, I was just going to say that the cost that you're talking about is also going to spread out. Invariably the cost will go up, just even through inflation. I mean, it's just going to go up, but that's going to be spread among not just Wichita Falls, but all the areas that use Wichita water, right? Because we're on
Red River Water Authority.
No, you're Red River. I'm not
Deandale.
Deandale. There you go. Yeah. So they've combined it with well water, right? And then all the different ones. So does Burke have completely off? Or they
no, they're on Wichita.
Our water is a combination of well water, and then it's blended with water purchased from Wichita Falls. Okay. There's a pipeline that brings water up from Wichita Falls to us.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my point, was that it's not just Wichita Falls, but it's also others. But here's the thing that I think that is important. I think we have a wave kind of going in Wichita Falls, is that we're set up, and we've been working 10, 15 years anyway, it seems like, a concerted effort to get our city in a position where we could grow. And I know that may be a moot point. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but we can certainly say that the chamber and a lot of other people are finally there. And I think we need to grow. I mean, this area, even if it's just a little bit, I mean, we talked about this, 10% a year. That'd be a lot. That'd be 1,000 people a year, right? Or 1%.
1%.
No, 1% was 1,000, right? My math. So
1%.
So that, just 1% growth for us.
It only works on your computers, folks. He doesn't have to do
that. But anyway, my point is I think that I just feel good about where we're at overall, which Clay County will benefit for sure. And then, because we're in Clay County as well. You're in Burke, but we're going to be affected indirectly whatever happens in Wichita Falls. And the other thing, this is sort of a side note, if the lake were to be built, it's long term. It won't, we may not ever see any water ourselves. I don't know. It just depends on how long you're able to live. But there would be a little bit of it will be recreational too, right? Will they be opening up? And so there's
just as Arrowhead is.
Right. So potentially there's going to be a benefit monetarily for Clay County there as well. But that's not necessarily a reason. That's not the reason to do it. It's obviously to take people's lands. But I think the water situation does, because you got to think about it.
Put in a beer bait and ammo shop. I mean, that's
why not? Yeah. Well, but you talked about the growth. You got that development in the southwestern part of your county.
Sure.
And obviously there's going to be more growth this way. The problem with people migrating to Texas, whether it's from California or wherever, things are getting cramped in the Metroplex quickly. And so it just, looking at the lay of the land, it looks natural that they're going to start coming north and west because there's a lot of land to be purchased, a lot of land to be developed in Montague and Clay County, and even in some parts of Wichita County. There's development that can happen because they're getting crowded out down there. And so it looks like my personal prediction is in 50 years, you're not going to know where Decatur ends and Bowie begins. They're just going to be slammed together like every other community in the Metroplex is.
You're seeing that between Saginaw and Rome and all of that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Down to 87, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I go through Saginaw frequently, and you look at it, just what's developed along Business 287 going into Saginaw in the last 5 years. You know, there's massive housing developments that have been built, and there ain't a house in there that's under $350,000-$400,000.
It's a challenge for your schools to keep up. That's one of the biggest things because the kids get there before the tax dollars do. Mm-hmm. So they got to do really well on their planning for that. So it's good to plan. Certainly we want to be good neighbors, those of us in Clay County, to Wichita Falls, Wichita County.
Well, sure.
Because personally, I drove to Wichita Falls every day for almost 30 years, made a good living at Region 9 and working with you over at the radio station and Channel 3 and all those things. So we want Wichita Falls to be successful and do well.
Sure.
We want Shepherd Air Force Base. A lot of our folks that live out there work at Shepherd. Mm-hmm. So it's important for it to be
well, I keep saying, and I think you'll agree with this, as Wichita Falls goes, the rest of the area goes.
Well, it's a hub, no doubt.
If Wichita Falls is successful in every way possible, it only benefits Henrietta, Burt Burnett, Electra, Iowa Park, even Archer City, even Holiday, even towns that aren't in our county. Everyone benefits from Wichita Falls doing well. And if we can get growth moving in the right direction here, that too benefits you. It's more sales tax dollars in your county, which is something you guys talk about, I'm sure, every dadgum meeting. It comes up, surely.
That's absolutely true, but you'd be surprised how people are opposed to growth as well. Those that live out in the country, this subdivision we're talking about, we had a crowd show up that was opposed to us approving the plat. Their biggest concern, biggest argument, I think rightfully so, was the water is limited. And if you've got to drill a well to get it, the more straws you have in that stream, the less water it is for everybody. So they're concerned about that. So we made them do a water study, and it passed. It passed according to their engineers. Yeah. So the plat went forward, and there are people buying houses right now. We'll wait and see how the water turns out.
So real quickly, and I think Terry alluded to this, but I knew Mike needed to finish his question. Talk a little bit about the challenges of having a lake that's owned by another municipality inside your county.
Well, we've got that with Lake Arrowhead.
That's what I mean. That's already Lake Arrowhead is already the case there.
Those that are opposed to Lake Ringo point to Lake Arrowhead and say, look what happened over there. And what happened was the city of Wichita Falls owned all the land around it, and they leased those lots to the people to build a long-term lease, I guess like a 50-year deal. And many of those are coming up again, and now they're bumping up the price on that. The biggest concern that we had was they went in and paved all that, but they didn't do the upkeep on it. They're not doing the maintenance. So the folks that live in that area call the county and go, why can't you fix our road? It's not our road. It's the city of Wichita Falls. So
yeah, it's a whole can of worms, isn't it?
Well, it's a problem, and people don't think about that. My gosh, how beautiful is this? But that thing takes maintenance, and over years of wear and tear, somebody's got to come in and fix it. Well, the tax base is not there for the county to pave roads.
And it's not fair it wouldn't be fair for Clay County to pave or to pay to maintain roads, the Clay County taxpayer to maintain roads that are owned by the city of Wichita Falls.
So in this case, though, if you were a regular citizen that owned that land, they'd be paying taxes to the county, correct? So Wichita Falls does not pay taxes on the property they own. That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. So, but now that's just the one side of the lake, right? Because the other side of the lake you do own that side.
We have
pay tax on
sure. We've accepted some roads over there, and the solution and Retta Collins is the commissioner. I don't know if she's yours or not. But
she's my commissioner.
Retta, the solution is you plow it up and put gravel.
Right.
You got to pull all that tore up asphalt out and replace it with gravel. And gravel roads are not necessarily bad. They're dusty, but we know that going in that it's going to be dusty, but it's still a good way, and the whole purpose of having a good road is to make sure your school buses, your fire trucks, ambulances can get to your house.
Yeah, but gravel roads aren't maintenance free either. There's still an expense with that.
That's all right.
And that's something. Well, I mean, you already deal with that. The commissioners deal with that all in other parts of your county. You're constantly having to go back and forth about how much dollars do we allocate to fix this road, and you really have to get down to deciding which roads are the priorities. Which squeaky wheel is squeaking the loudest.
Well, and it really goes down to those that are most populated.
Yeah,
it's kind of an interesting thing. Precinct 4, the southeastern corner, has the most roads, but they got the fewest people. Precinct 2, on the other hand, has the fewest roads. Well, we give tax dollars out based on mileage of roads. So Jack Pickett, who's our commissioner over in Precinct 2, it's a challenge for him because the wear and tear is still there, but not necessarily the tax dollars. So what we try to do is equalize that. We give each precinct an even amount of money. It's $60,000 that we give to each precinct to try to help that situation.
Well, on that, I heard y'all talking about it before we started recording, but about I moved out there knowing there was a dirt road, but it wouldn't, there's newer technologies. I've seen some videos of this chip seal. Well, there's chip seal, but there was some other thing that, and I don't really understand it, that can treat the road. It reduces the dust, and so I don't know. I assume y'all all looked at all these.
Just put shellac on it, right? Just some guy out there.
I'm just curious. See, I don't know the numbers, and
nice
all
thick coat of lacquer.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about that, because at least the dust. If there's a way to reduce the dust, that's the biggest thing. Because we all have memberships at the car wash, right?
Oh, I know. Absolutely. Yeah. You can tell people who live in the country.
Yeah.
In the parking lot. There's no question who we are. It takes extra equipment to do that. It still costs money to do it, and we're limited. I mean, you got to find that balance. We want to keep our taxes low. We want to be good stewards of what we get. Yep. So our commissioners, each of them, have their own little precinct that they're responsible for. They get to decide how they're going to maintain those roads. That's not necessarily their number one priority, but it's a very important part of it.
And that's part of their job as elected official, because they are responsible to those constituents, or responsive to those constituents. So as we're winding down, is there anything else you want to talk about and kind of promote Clay County, or just talk about what's going on in Clay County? Or?
Oh, we've got so many good things that are going on in Clay County, and the biggest one right now is our hospital. And I want to say thanks to Trey for being a part of our board of managers for that. That's another volunteer thing that people give up at least a couple hours per month to do it, many times more. But our hospital is so vitally important to our ambulance service and all those things. So we appreciate the folks on our board of managers. Our hospital is a good hospital. We have an excellent ER. I get so many good reports on how well we do.
Real quickly, let me piggyback on that. Customer satisfaction is huge on that. And in the latest survey, and I know this is very indicative, their customer satisfaction rate, because we talked about customer satisfaction, on the hospital, the ER, was either people had no wait or they were very satisfied with the communication on your wait. Because like we've talked about, the worst thing is getting stuck somewhere and not knowing what's going on. If you get stuck somewhere and you go, hey, we've got somebody out here who's doing something, we need to get them through, then we'll get you in and stuff like that. And they tell you, you understand that. And I was really proud to see that it was 100% satisfaction of, even if I had to wait, I wasn't left in the dark. Yeah. So, sorry.
And that's absolutely true. And some more good news is we have a new doctor coming to town as well.
Good.
We've been recruiting. That'll really help our situation a lot. The hospital is working on a mental health service for Medicare patients as well. The geriatric psychology, because we have so many people that are depressed. We have several suicides in Clay County, sadly, over the years. So we want to do something about that. If people have lost a loved one lately, or they're depressed, or whatever the issue is, they're going to have a service for that as well. People our age, well, not y'all, but me, we take mental health as being something you don't really talk about. It's if you got to get help, some counseling, then it's like a failure. It shouldn't be that way. When we need help, if if your car breaks down, you go to a mechanic. If you're having mental situation, you need to talk to a professional about it. So call the guy.
Yeah, definitely. Mike Campbell, Clay County Judge, Clay County here in North Central Texas. And if people want to find out more about you, or find out more about Clay County, or learn more about whatever? What's the best resource for them to do that?
Oh, golly, we're on Facebook, of course. Got a Facebook page, Clay County, and then I have my own personal one. We've got our website, claycountytexas.net. It's claycountytx.net. Certainly you can go to that, or just give me a call, 940-538-4651. Operators are standing by.
I always thought that was so funny when I was a kid. Operators are standing by, and I'm like, are they really just standing there?
No, they're not. They're sitting. It's a lie.
Yeah, it's a lie.
Waiting with bated breath.
Or even remember when the TV would go fuzzy and there would have to be working on and say, please stand by.
Yeah.
I always thought, were you supposed to go stand next to the TV? Or?
Yeah. Well, they used to put the Indian head thing up on the screen. Yeah, you couldn't do that anymore, you know. No. You had to put Trey's face up there.
You should do that here. You should put an Indian head up and see what happens.
Yeah.
Just see what it does. Yeah.
We've already been canceled. It doesn't matter.
Best 8 minutes we've ever had. Anyway, thank you very much for being with us again for this episode of Get It Right Texoma. Again, it's brought to you by Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, located at 401 North Scott in downtown Wichita Falls. EddieHillsFunCycles.com. MacTech Solutions, located at 4020 Ray Road in Wichita Falls, Suite 3B. MacTech-Solutions.com, and Lolly and Pop's Sweet Shop online at lpsweet.com, and on Facebook, Lolly and Pop's Sweet Shop. And Lolly is spelled Lollie, by the way. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care. We shall see you down the road.
Have a great day. See you. Bye.